So, so it's really interesting. I was just reading somebody's post and they're like, have you ever had an oil not work? Have you ever used an oil and it didn't work? And it made me start to really think about what that was all about. And I started thinking, the truth is I haven't, not since I started using or utilizing doTERRA oils, but I do respect that that can happen. And there are a lot of reasons why that can happen. So we're not going to talk about that right now. I'm just going to hold you on the edge of your seat.
Oh, that was like the teaser, huh?
And then we'll kind of circle around on the end of the conversation when we get to that point.
Cool. I'm anxious to hear the end of that story.
So what got me into oils was my daughter who really needed some help. And she was having some difficulties and she needed something to really boost her immune system and to help her with some issues that were pain related. And she just couldn't seem to get past them. And so I started looking for some alternative things that might help her, since the things that you would usually think would work had actually caused some pretty major damage in her. So knowing that that was going on, we're going, okay, so what are the next steps? So knowing that she was really compromised in her ability to even have any small things around, I didn't know how to use essential oils very well. And I didn't really, she became the guinea pig, but it was not good to have her be a guinea pig because she was so susceptible to how she responded to them. So I had to learn how to deal with her susceptibility. And so I learned how to use diffusers, and we cleaned a lot with it and didn't put it on her. She'd smell it, but I really didn't understand what dilution meant or why that was important. And so we're going to talk about all those things tonight. So I've been thinking a lot about why it's important, why you can use these with children or people who have systems that are extremely sensitive, and why it's so effective. So if we can go to the slides, we'll just go ahead along into those. Yeah. Go. So, it never feels good to be dealing with sick, right? You just can't get on top of it for some reason. And you're just kind of like, I don't know, just kind of clawing through. And we're going backwards now to the front. We're going back to the future.
There you go.
So, and it's really hard when you're a kid and you can't be out using your big muscles and getting a lot of oxygen, because those are the great things that children do to really help pump their immune systems naturally. We tend to go to the couch when we're stuck indoors and pull up a nice warm blanket around us. But that's not what kids do. Kids are like always trying to find a way to still keep moving.
Is that good for the immune system to be a couch potato?
You answer me that. You don't have to ask that.
I can't imagine that would be good.
No, it sure feels good, doesn't it? So, so what I did was I started using these oils, like I was saying, with my sweet daughter and myself too, because I had a pretty sensitive immune system myself. So what can we do for these little ones, because they're so sensitive? So the first important thing that I will tell you is, okay, I got 5 tips. Number one is potency. So potency has 2 things that we're going to talk about. One is dilution factors, and the other is how pure the oils are that you're using. So if you were thinking about your child and how innocent they are in a way to fill it, and you just want to fill them with all the good things that you possibly can, right? And what are you going to put on them? You're going to put something that really is going to hurt them and hurt their liver and hurt their lungs or hurt their feet even, No, you're going to try to find something that's really, really gentle, but that will be effective. And that's what a potent thing can be. We don't think of potency as being gentle, but it can be very gentle on a body, but still work effectively. So I'm just going to give some examples of things I have over here. You can get you can have these in an even another form too that are just made for kids. So I'm not even going to go into the kid pack right now. These are just diluted oils. So this one's lavender. And the neat thing about it is you can put it on you, like on your hand. Like I'll just show you. If you're going to put it on a child's foot, you can put it on you first, okay? And if you know something about reflexology or zoning, or you can put on you first, rub it on your hands, and then rub it on their feet. Now, why are you going to do that? Because you're going to soak some of it in. Then you won't have to worry about it being too, uh, what was the word I used this morning?
Potent, too
No,
concentrated.
Yeah, well, it's too concentrated, but it can make that kind of hurt sometimes. If you put it on them, and you might have a little bit of redness, or they might get a little bit of a rash, and we don't want to do that to the kids. And so you can do that with it. And because doTERRA's done this great thing of giving us the right dilution factors, we don't have to think about it. But diluted oils just means that it's going to use something like olive oil. In this case, it's coconut, fractionated coconut oil. But it's going to use an oil that's easily assimilated by the skin and go into the skin and take the other oil with it. And that's why it's so cool. And so for adults, you can still use it in these diluted forms. It's not dilution like we think. It's still very potent, but you're going to have to use it with more frequency if you use it in these forms, because it doesn't have the same amount of oil that you're going to have going through your body, but it's perfect for kids. So I have this one. Digestion is another great one that you can just do the same thing. Oops, I opened a new one. I thought I have two of them sitting right next to each other. Anyway, this is Digestion. You can put it right on your fingertip like that. And then you probably can't see that, but it's a little shiny. You can kind of rub it on both fingertips, okay? And then you can just go lightly, like a 2-inch surface by their belly, right? That's all you have to do. And then you can put the rest on you, right? Because who doesn't have a little bit of indigestion going on? Most of us have just a little something that's not quite right. I don't know. Maybe there's somebody out there that doesn't. I'm actually going to put it on the bottom of my feet right this minute. And then I'm going to put my shoes back on. And that's another trick you can do with these, is you can stick them on their feet, because some children don't like to have that smell right next to their face. And the foot, there's some great pictures. And if you don't have this book, you ought to invest in one. And if you don't have it, let me know and we'll talk and I'll get you one. But this book has pictures about where to put things, where to put oils on your feet. Let me see if I can open it really quickly here, just to get to that part. See if I can, here we go. Okay, so if you can see that, it shows you where to put it for effective use through the body. And why can it do that? Because, sorry about that, hit him in the face. Because uptake, there is according to your circulatory patterns. And so it's going to uptake from those places in your foot into the areas of the body that it's needed. Super important for people who are sensitive. Now the feet have more layers of skin on them. And so if you're going to be applying for a while on a child for any reason, consider the feet first and then move to the other parts of the body. You can still put it on their tummy. You can just stick a teeny bit in their belly button or something for the digestion. You can still do a little bit of lavender on a cloth or right behind the ears for sleep. Sometimes that's a very calming one. For my kids, lavender is not the one to go to. Mine's more like a wild orange or a citrus bliss, or even in tune, which is already diluted as well. So in a child's body, the oil can circulate in as little as 30 seconds because they have such a small surface area to go through. And for us, it's more like 3 to 5 hours. So if you read a lot of times in the books, it'll say apply about every 3 to 5 hours. But the more important thing is to think the amount you're putting on and the frequency as well. So if you have a little one and they're just getting a teeny bit, you can put it more frequently, but you're going to put it you first and then apply to them. So we're on frequency now. Frequency is super important for you too, because if you're having something that's going on, say for instance, you're like me and you're not really good with crafts and you end up cutting yourself more than the fabric, then you'll want to have something like helichrysum around because it helps stop that blood flow immediately. And then you can just put it on, bam, you just stick it on. And then if you even see kind of like it starts to leak a little bit, put some more on. And I do this when I have a cut on I've done it multiple times now, and I'll just take it and stick it right there. I'll do it about just watch it really. I watch I'll do it until it stops the blood flow, which is pretty fast. And then after that, I'll keep it up frequently for the first few hours, and then I slow it down completely. And that still can be in diluted forms. So you can think about that, and especially with kids, we're always going to talk about diluted oils for children and people that have more sensitive skin. Rose is another good example. Same thing. It's diluted form. A lot of times we think, well, that means it's not going to be as good. But what it means is, again, frequency. Touch. So touch has some really important things. Touch isn't just good because our skin is a surface that's really a sponge, right? And so if we put things on it, then it goes in. People are like, well, what if I just put it on my skin? Then that's not going to really do anything, right? Well, they're thinking about their skin like a piece of plastic, which still is porous, but we're not plastic and we're very porous, and it goes right in. We soak it right into our bodies. Immediately it's for use in our systems because it's just going to be circulating around. But there are a couple of other great things about touch. Touch also stimulates that surface area, so it'll circulate more with a higher frequency. So if I rub my hands together after I use a wild orange, I'm going to experience it internally as well as externally. I smell it, but it's already in my body. Amazing, right? And for children, touch has another special thing, and for us too. Most of us like to be touched, some way or another, right? We like that. We like the feel of that. And it sends endorphins and wonderful, dopamine into our bodies and makes us feel good. Well, that happens to kids too. So if they're feeling awful, nice thing to do is give them a little foot rub on those feet and take one of these oils that soothe. I have a few different ones over here that I already talked about, but I have Adaptive, which I think is a really nice one for kids. You can even put oregano on. Be very careful with oregano always because it's considered
it's a hot oil.
Hot oil. It's considered, well, I was thinking of the other word, and I don't have it on my things here, but anyway, it's considered a hot oil because it tends to have more irritative qualities with the skin. So you can still use it with children. I always say, make sure you either dilute it in your hand using like a half a teaspoon of olive oil or something, and then put it on your hand again. You're going to work from your hand and just a little bit on them. Make sure you don't overdo it with oregano, but you can do it again with a little bit more frequency. But you don't want to overload anybody's body. Breathe. You can stick it on a child's back. So if they don't like that fuming smell, plus they tend to put their hands on the front of them. So if you put it on their an area where they can touch, it'll probably end up in their eyes. So if you can do it on feet where you can put socks on, you can do it on the back where they can't touch, they're going to come out with better results. Okay. And, you can put it on little cotton balls and stick a cotton ball like on an ear and use lemon on it, or tea tree, which I have here too somewhere. There's tea tree also in diluted form. So those are some of the really good ones that you can use easily. And then don't forget, you can diffuse these, and you don't have to use them in the diluted forms for diffusing. And you can run a diffuser all day and all night. And if you have children that deal with something that, is clogging up their lungs or clogging up their sinuses, I would suggest that you consider diffusing. diffusing something great. You can use AirX. I've heard that that's a fantastic one. I've used Breathe a lot for that. I also trade off between Breathe and On Guard. So I'll put one or the other. And sometimes when I get lazy and I don't want to get out 2 diffusers, I'll stick both of them in at the same time and have that going all day, all night for my kids that visit. Whenever I have my children come in from out of town and they bring their children with them, they're always bringing something extra to share. And it usually comes out in a cold in everybody like the 3rd day. But if I have these going and I can, then I keep the surfaces cleaned with them too, it all turns out a ton better for everybody. Everybody's a lot happier because they feel a lot healthier. And we can keep them out of the kind of the doldrums, even though we're stuck indoors.
So speaking of diffusing, Jeanette just posted a couple of days ago on Facebook some great diffusing recipes, I guess you call them,
Yeah,
for mixing different ones.
blends.
So blends, sorry about that, blends. So if you're looking for some ideas on what blends work well, check out the Facebook page of a couple of days ago, and there's some great blends.
If your child has they're experiencing head tension, we'll go with that. Then you can grab past tense. Past tense is very, very strong. So again, put it on your hands, but put it with some coconut oil and rub it on your hands first. And then just kind of give them a massage on the back part of their head. Again, staying away from the face where they're gonna immediately put it into their eyes, because they will. So nutrients and supplements. So now we've talked a little bit about what you do when you're already in the doldrums. And now we're going to pull it out to what you do before you get there so that you don't have to be there. We're going to go over this really, really lightly, but a great supplement for children is always going to have vitamin C in it, because it's going to keep their immune system working really well. It'll have a balanced amount of all of the vitamins that are essential for digesting food, and then they also should be, we should be considering putting into children things that we want to deal with. So if we don't want to deal with the after effects of them eating a lot of sugar, then we ought to consider not putting it into their bodies in the first place. If we don't like what we see when our kid has too many hot dogs, we might consider putting other things in front of them that aren't going to make them feel that way, because we get to deal with the after effects of the nutrients we put into our children's bodies. Really simple to help them learn to love vegetables and fruits by adding some softer flavors, because sometimes vegetables are just too strong for children. And so we can cream them. You can cream them in coconut milk, which is awesome. And then they can eat their spinach and it doesn't quite taste so strong. A lot of times the strong flavors are what they can't handle. And then they'll get their nutrients in their bodies. Most children will enjoy fruits unless they've only been using fruit snacks, which are basically candy. And we call them fruit, but they're not. Even a lot of times there isn't even any fruit in it. It's just all fake flavoring. So consider what you're putting in them. The fake coloring is hard on children's livers. It can make them have more activity in their bodies. And then, that's the worst thing when you're stuck indoors, is kids that are bouncing off the walls, literally, because we lost it and gave them those extra snacks while we wanted to watch another movie. Okay, right. So that's kind of the sum total. Now I told you, the question was asked at the beginning. I'm getting confused with what Mark's doing here. So
I'm stopping the share.
He's stopping the share, but okay. There you go. So the question that I came up was, have you ever had an oil not work? And the answer is check for efficacy. Check for that potency. Know that the oils that you're using are very, very well tested, because that will increase how well they perform in your body. know where the oils are harvested from, because that will increase how well they work in a person's body. And then finally, if you are doing things to your body that you know are not making you feel well, then you will stop the efficacy of whatever you're trying to do to help your body feel better with anything, whether, it doesn't matter what it is. So if you're not getting some of the results that you thought you would be getting, that's something to consider. And also remember that you have a large body if you're an adult. And so consider frequency for the first couple of hours and then back off some more, and go slower with what you're using, how much you're using, but you can put that in the air. If I have, like if I've bumped into the wall and my hand's hurting a lot, then I can put that deep blue on it immediately, and it might start hurting again in 20 minutes. I'll put it on again. And so anytime I start feeling that pain again, I'll just put on a little bit. I don't like, gob it on. I just do the same thing I would do with kids. I do it until I can tell that pain has subsided, and then I'm okay again. And I know that it has, because I don't think I need it anymore. It always happens as the same thing. Oh, I'm fine now. And then I forget. And then when the pain shoots up a little bit, I'm like, oh, I need some more of that. And so I do that.
Yeah, it's really interesting. We've talked to people who have tried, for example, deep blue, and we ask them, well, how did it go? And they said, oh, it felt really great, but then an hour later the pain was back, and they didn't even think about, well, gee, if it worked when I first put it on, then why not try try it again in an hour?
Why not put some more on?
And that's
So
what
true.
I found as well. When my muscles are sore, and a lot of times my back is really sore in the morning when I wake up, and so I'll put it on, and an hour later, if I need more, I put more on, and I still get the same relief. It's pretty amazing that it continues to give that relief.
Yeah. So we're going to open up for questions, any questions that we might have. And thanks so much, our Facebook peoples. We're glad to have you on, and we'll see you next week.